I want to talk about your just your efficiency of how you've gotten to the point where most sits you're seeing younger bucks and does. If you could kind of think back to when you were getting started and you were really trying to figure out all this, all your formula that you have right now, what are the kinks that you had to work out to get to the point where any given day you're probably going to see some deer, if not a couple bucks?
The biggest kink was not wasting time on places that I can't figure out pretty quick. Um, and I know that sounds very shallow, but if I go into an area and I can't see myself getting on some kind of deer sign quickly, like I've walked, let's say I've walked for an hour and a half, let's say 2 hours, I've walked, a mile or a mile and a half in that time, and I'm not seeing deer sign. I'm not going to spend all day there to try to scratch out what buck might be on that place. A lot of guys aren't like that. But for me, bow hunting, I've got to be in some deer. It doesn't have to be all the deer or every deer or the biggest deer. But if I really, really, really want to maximize my time, I love seeing deer. I love being around deer. This year, I got to be around a lot of deer when I was deer hunting because I had a few bucks that I was specifically hunting. And that's been the biggest thing, man. Like I don't like to call it hanging and hoping because a lot of times I do get in a tree and I set up in a spot that I more than likely know I'm not going to see like that big buck. But I do get in the tree to just see what can I see here? There's so much sign here. Got a good wind. There's really good cover. I'm gonna set up and just have a good afternoon. And when I do that, that's normally when I do see most of my deer. So like those afternoons where I'm just trying to get away for a few minutes and I'm just, for a few hours, let me say, I can leave at noon and I just want to see some deer. I might shoot a doe. I might go to, a smaller piece of public. And if I see a 3-year-old buck, he might just be getting it that day. I'm just not wasting time on stupid setups or stupid areas. And I hate to say it like that, but I feel like a lot of guys waste their time in areas that aren't conducive to like deer being deer being unpressured or deer even being there. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I can relate with that definitely. That makes a lot of sense because I mean, even if I look back at like when I especially when I first started hunting public land, and I go look at the spots that I used to hunt, a lot of them are like I really cannot put my finger on why I even liked this area. Like there's one place in particular where I'm just like I don't really know what drew me to this area to begin with, and I just spent so much time kind of banging my head against a wall uh, in that location. There was another thing I wanted to ask about with that, and it left my
Okay.
one thing. Can I add something to that real quick?
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, a lot of it's situational too, as in the time of year. There's certain like areas where I hunt that I will hunt the first few weeks of season, but after that, I'm gone. You know what I mean? Like, and there's certain areas that I won't hunt until later, like way later. And if I hunted them the first few weeks of season, I wouldn't be seeing deer. A lot of times, I think guys get caught up on what they were seeing last, as in last season. So, like, they were seeing deer on this ridge at the end of January, let's not say at the end of January, end of December. So they go there the first 2 weeks of bow season and they're like, man, there's no deer in here. Well, it's not that there's no deer in here. It's just you're here way too early. And that goes back to like the guy y'all had on here a few days ago. Like a lot of it's just timing. Back to the whole pinup thing we were talking about before we started this podcast. Like, yeah, you can go hunt a pin oak tree that you saw them eating acorns out from around January the 15th, but they're probably not going to be there on September 28th. So that's just it's such a basic thing, but I think people get lazy. Like I'm a big proponent of not being lazy when it comes to like truly deer hunting. Like we gotta find what they're doing today. And when I really switched to like doing that, like thinking that, that's when I started seeing deer all the time. Like, what are they doing today? Like, how can I get on today? So,
Hmm. Now, do you have this is what I was going to ask before. Do you do any kind of summer scouting, or are you just like a most recent sign in season scouting kind of guy?
I've only really gotten to the summer scouting since I've moved to Tennessee because there are less 4, 5, and 6 year old bucks. So, luckily, with what I do for a living, I get to meet a lot of people. And so I can ask for permission. I've gotten permission on several places that have a lovely plant growing on them called kudzu. And I don't like to talk about this because I'm 27. I'm still trying to kill all mine. I'm sorry if that's selfish, but kudzu is a phenomenal crop. I know it destroys places and it takes over things, but those big buck deer in East Tennessee get buried in that kudzu and they live in it up until about, for me, the last 2 years, I know up until the first week of October. If you've got a big buck and the acorns aren't falling, even if they are falling, a lot of times that big buck will still be in that kudzu. And I messed up on one of, I think probably would have been my second biggest deer this year. I just couldn't figure out how to get in there and kill him with the way the wind was and all that jazz. But he's just a freaking magnificent 8 pointer, just probably 19, 20 inches wide, probably 12, 13-inch G2s, 23, 24-inch main beams, just a freaking beast buried in this privet hedge thicket, and he wouldn't leave it. And he was safe, and he's 6 or 7 years old. That's the only time I've really gotten into the summer scouting since I moved here, trying to find a bigger, more mature deer. They act, you know how they act during the summertime. They're not the same as they are when they go hard horn. So it's just the way I'm doing it here. I'm looking at kudzu. We really don't have any beans. We really don't have anything like that you could get on. I don't feed or anything like that. I don't, Tennessee, you can't hunt over bait for one. And number two, I don't like the financial obligation of feeding deer. So I just, right now, I'm doing a lot of summer scouting and a lot of kudzu.